Arc Raiders, a multiplayer extraction adventure video game set in a lethal yet vibrant future Earth. Play as a raider, where you will settle into a fractured underground settlement, hoping to build a new home and legacy for yourself. In order to thrive, you must return to the surface, where lethal Arc machines roam unchecked, and the motives of other raiders are dangerously unclear. But if you are fearless enough, who knows what you might find? Pre-order now for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. Available on October 30. Rated T for Teen.
Now it's time for No Pucks Given with Dan Kingerski of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Penguin Scoops locker room buzz and straight-up analysis. No fluff, all hockey. Now, here's Dan.
And here we go. It is a No Pucks Given. I think it's like episode 36. I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms, the Odyssey Podcast Network. And I believe they'll be putting this on YouTube and Facebook and, a subway hitching post near you. So here's what's on tap for this episode. We're going to talk about the Penguins kids. Now, there's another rookie in the lineup. I don't know if you caught the news on Sunday. Ricard Raquel had surgery on his left hand Sunday morning, out 6 to 8 weeks. That joins Caleb Jones, who on Saturday was announced to have a lower body injury, also out about 8 weeks. So the Penguins have only made one recall to this point, and that was Ville Koivunen on Sunday. Koivunen started the season high hopes after 7 points in 8 games last year. There was a lot of hope around what he could do beside Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin. And let's be honest, he kind of face planted in the first couple of games. So we're going to talk about Koivunen. I won't give away his. Koivunen will never be confused with being verbose or wordy. And I thought he had just the perfect quote when asked what coaches said to him before the Penguins sent him down. We'll get to that. We're also going to talk about the Penguins' sustainability. 6-2-1 after 9 games. They're basically a point away from having as many points in this 2025 October as they've had in the last 2 Octobers combined. Let that sink in just a little bit. We're going to go over the players kind of playing over their heads and way over expectations, who are all but assured to regress to the mean. I apologize for using a Pirates term. And the things within the Penguins game and their lineup that can continue and can bring them success. So we'll talk about that. Plus, I've got a couple of reader questions as well. That's where we start this here No Pucks Given. And if I look a little worse for wear, for those of you on the video side, well, it's only October, and this schedule is already starting to wear me out a little bit. We've got an 8-day road trip with only 3 games. I guess there's 4. I almost don't count Philadelphia. Cross our fingers that Amtrak gets me to Philadelphia on time, because I couldn't drive there on Tuesday, and there's never any good flights to Philadelphia. So I'm taking the train because I can't drive to Philly, because we're flying from Philly to Minneapolis, and then Minneapolis up to Winnipeg to Toronto. And if we're in Toronto, if there's a Game 7 in the World Series, we'll be there, we'll be arriving that night. Although I think I'm staying in Winnipeg until the next morning. So if there is a Game 7, I'll be watching it from Winnipeg. But the hotel prices, unbelievable. The little places I stay, even a little jazz club with basically a single bed and a bathroom for you, was like $500. People were just like, yeah, if there's a World Series and they win it, I'm staying, and I'm staying for the parade. So downtown Toronto is booked. I may or may not be staying at a casino. Just don't tell the NBA. All right, let's get into this No Pucks Given here. And I actually have to move my little bit of a light. Okay. I had to find the clock, because my podcast producer, Scott's like, hey, can you let me know when you talk about certain issues? I'm like, well, no. because this is stream of consciousness. Here is what I wrote down. I made some quick notes. The topics. I write down a couple names, and that is it. Where we go from here is entirely up to my brain, and it hasn't yet informed me of where we're going. I can't tell you the number of times I have, in fact, started a column or even a podcast with a specific conclusion. And I begin laying out the evidence, the facts, the logic. And before I'm halfway done, or about the time I'm getting to the end, I realize my conclusion doesn't match the facts. And I have to rewrite the second half of the story to update my conclusion to what I've just now laid out in front of me. Sometimes when you say it out loud or put it in print, it just looks different than it sounds in your head. Or, listen, I've got plenty of voices upstairs. I let them argue for control. Let's talk about the Penguins kids now, because they're going to have a handful of rookies in the lineup at any given time. Artur Shilovs counts as a rookie, so when he plays, that's one. Harrison Brunick is 2. Ben Kindle is 3. Ville Koivunen now 4. And Philip Hollander is 5. As of Sunday, don't get married to these lines. Don't get all emotionally attached to Philip Hollander being on Sidney Crosby's line. But that's how they're going to start Monday against the St. Louis Blues. Hollander has been a steady example of kind of how to make it in the NHL. No risks, few rewards, but he hasn't made mistakes. He has contributed to the play moving forward, kind of starting them off, and he's been responsible in the defensive zone. That's compared to the other wingers on the third line, I would say he has been a standout. However, that's kind of like being the smartest man in prison at this point. So Hollander gets the bump, partly out of necessity, but as Coach Dan Muse also said, hey, listen, we kind of wanted to see how it would go. I appreciated that bit of admission more than It's like, yeah, you know what? The guy scored 27 goals in Sweden. Now, Dan Muse didn't say this part. I'm saying it. But he scores 27 goals in Sweden last year. He's got a bit of playmaking ability. We saw it in the preseason when he played with Ben Kindle. Those two had Kindle brought it out of him. So what the heck? They're going to try Hollander on the top line. I don't think it's going to last long. I tend to think that Sidney Crosby might chew him up and spit him out a little bit. But listen, you just never know. So the Penguins are going to have 5 rookies in the lineup at any one point here going forward. And listen, they probably should have 6 by recalling a left-handed defenseman. And Pickering. Sorry. Pickering. We'll see where that goes. I do have by the time you hear this podcast, I will have published a scoop on the Penguins trade calls. They're calling around. What the heck? I'll break the news because you're not going to hear this until Monday morning. So I'm recording this Sunday evening during halftime of the Steelers game. Here's the breaking scoop. The Penguins are calling around other teams looking for bargain left-handed defensemen. I believe one of the names that you can watch would be Eric Gustafsson in Detroit. There are others. The Penguins are really only offering a mid-round, late-round pick. They're not offering a whole lot. So they're not having any luck. Now, that comes from a league source familiar with several conversations the Penguins have had. Okay. So there's that. Oh, I'll note that down for Scott at 8:06. I talked about a trade. Now, back to the rookies. Let's be clear. The Penguins are a better team with the rookies in the lineup. There are going to be wild swings up and down. Maybe not so much of Ben Kindle. Boy, that guy is he's getting better and better. But everybody else is going to have the struggles. They're going to buy their ticket on the struggle bus and they're going to be them. There's nothing they can do about it. Nothing anybody can. This is the trial and error. This is the gaining experience part of their careers.
Arc Raiders, a multiplayer extraction adventure video game set in a lethal yet vibrant future Earth. Play as a raider, where you will settle into a fractured underground settlement, hoping to build a new home and legacy for yourself. In order to thrive, you must return to the surface, where lethal Arc machines roam unchecked, and the motives of other raiders are dangerously unclear. But if you are fearless enough, who knows what you might find? Pre-order now for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. Available on October 30, rated T for teen.
Mark that down for Scott, too. Brunick had a couple of wild games. He was adventure driving in the 2 games before he was scratched for the last 2 games. As we talked about in the postgame, though, his mistakes were no worse than, say, Connor Clifton's. And Brunick has a higher upside. Also, he can get out of trouble like nobody. Just turn the feet and go. And that helps the Penguins' breakouts, and that helps the Penguins transition from defense to offense. He needs to be in the lineup more. I understand they're 6-2-1. They're starting to think we need to win games. Unless Brunick plays his way out of a spot, and you're like, okay, this can't continue. And he was starting to head that way in his final 2 games. But listen, he sat a game, and then he sat another game back in the lineup. Ville Koivunen. Here is the quintessential sort of rookie story, right? The explosion last season, 7 assists in 8 games, still looking for his first goal. But boy, he was just incredible last season. When he finally got the call up, he was reading the play. He was holding the puck when it was appropriate, dishing it to, some great passes to Sidney Crosby. That line really had a spark. But then this year, after the preseason, he's playing with Kindle and Hollander, and that looked pretty good. Maybe that should be the line Monday. Maybe it will be before long anyway. He looked lost. He looked lost beside Sidney Crosby. It's like they waved the green flag and everything went to hell in a handbasket. So they send him down. What does he have? Like 10 points in 6 games. Wilkes-Barre Scranton is 7-0. They're unbelievable. They're just destroying opponents down there. He gets the call back. This is kind of the up and the down, the ebb and the flow of a mid-range prospect. Is he as good as he was at the end of last season? Is he as bad as he showed at the beginning of this season? The answer is probably somewhere in the middle. I suspect it's closer to last season. You don't get those hockey smarts, and you don't make those plays on a hot streak. You make those plays because you're good and you can. So that's where I see Koivunen sort of going. Just the energy that they bring to the table. I think that helps the Penguins tremendously. So let's talk about the last couple of games. The Penguins have been badly outshot in the last 2 games. Florida had 81 shot attempts on Thursday to the Penguins' 43. The shots were 37-16. For those of you who, those public school mathers, that's more than double. I kid. I mean, yes, it is double. I'm kidding about the public school stuff. Then they get outshot 40-28, outchanced more than a 2-1 ratio against Columbus, of all teams. Now, Columbus is now 4-4, but they're not Florida. This is where we go into topic number 2 of No Pucks Given. And you know what? Since this is about the halfway point of the podcast, I, your lovely host, am going to take a quick timeout for those of you on the podcast side. If you're watching the video, I put my head down and I take a breath and we keep going. Those of you on the podcast side, the Odyssey Podcast Network, would like to pay a few bills right now.
Arc Raiders, a multiplayer extraction adventure video game set in a lethal yet vibrant future Earth. Play as a raider, where you will settle into a fractured underground settlement, hoping to build a new home and legacy for yourself. In order to thrive, you must return to the surface, where lethal Arc machines roam unchecked, and the motives of other raiders are dangerously unclear. But if you are fearless enough, who knows what you might find? Pre-order now for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. Available on October 30, rated T for teen.